Imagine a place where the sun seems to shine just a little bit brighter. A place where the welcome is so warm, it actually it feels like a physical embrace.
Hmm.
I'm talking about a culture where a stranger, I mean someone you have never met in your life, will literally pull up a chair in front of you, put a plate of rice in front of you, and insist you eat with them before they even know your name.
It sounds like paradise, doesn't it?
It really does.
And, in many ways, the Philippines fits that description perfectly.
Yeah.
It is a nation of over 7,000 islands, and it's defined by a culture of just intense hospitality, incredible food, and these vibrant, colorful festivals.
Yeah.
It really is a place that wears its heart on its sleeve.
Exactly. It's the kind of place you see on a travel poster and you think, I want to go there. I want to relax. But then you knew there was a but coming.
There's always a but.
There's always a but. There is a shadow side to this archipelago. It is a dark twin, if you will. Because the same culture that gives you that blinding sunlight also harbors a landscape of terrifying folklore. I mean, truly visceral monsters, and a specific geographical location that locals actually call the Devil's Mountain.
It is such a striking contrast. You have this radiant social warmth on one hand, this deep, deep connection between people, and then this primal, almost gut-level fear of the dark and the unseen on the other.
It's like a paradox.
It really is. It's almost like the brighter the light, the deeper the shadow it casts.
So that is our journey today. We are going to attempt a bit of a crossover here. We are going to start in the sunlight. We're going to look at the fabric of Filipino society, the values that make it so, so welcoming.
Right.
But then we're going to slowly descend. We'll cross the threshold of superstition. We'll meet the monsters that wait in the dark. And trust me, they are pure nightmare fuel. And eventually, we are going to find ourselves lost on the slopes of Mount Cristobal.
And our mission here is really a study in duality. To understand the Philippines, you can't just look at the white sand beaches and the smiles. You have to understand both the Bayanihan spirit, that communal unity, and the fear of the maligno.
The evil spirits.
The evil spirits, exactly.
Right. It's not an either-or situation, is it? It's not like there are good people and then there are monsters. They exist in the same space.
No, not at all. Because if you look closely, they are actually connected. The deep cultural values of respect that bind society together, they are the exact same mechanisms used to survive against the supernatural.
How so?
It's like a survival guide for both the social world and the spirit world. The way you show respect to your elders is mirrored in how you show respect to the seers in the forest. It's all part of the same system.
That is a fascinating angle, and to help us navigate this, we have a massive stack of sources today. We've got cultural guides, deep dives into urban legends like the White Lady of Balete Drive
The classic.
and the Manananggal. We've also got some truly harrowing hiking logs from a site called Pinoy Mountaineer about getting lost on that Devil's Mountain.
Yeah, we have a lot to cover.
So let's unpack this. Let's start with the light, the fabric of society. If you ask anyone who has visited the Philippines what sticks with them, it's almost always the people. And there are some very specific words that define how Filipinos relate to one another. The biggest one, the one you see on T-shirts and government posters, is bayanihan.
Yes, Bayanihan. It is a beautiful concept, and it gets thrown around a lot as a buzzword, but the roots of it are very, very practical.
Okay.
Etymologically, it comes from the word bayan, which means nation, town, or community. So it's about being part of that community.
And the classic image for this, and I love this visual because it's almost cartoonishly heroic. It's literal. It's not a metaphor.
No, it is quite literal.
Yeah.
In the old days, and even sometimes in rural areas today, if a neighbor needed to move, the community didn't just help them pack boxes into a U-Haul.
No.
They picked up the house.
The whole house. Just think about that for a second. The entire structure.
The whole house. You have to remember, traditional Filipino houses, the bahay kubo, were made of bamboo and nipple palm, so they were relatively lightweight. And they were built on stilts.
Right, for ventilation and flooding.
Exactly. So if a family needed to relocate, maybe to better farmland or away from a landslide risk, the men of the village would gather. They would slide these long bamboo poles underneath the frame of the house.
Almost like a giant stretcher.
Exactly like a giant stretcher. And then on a signal, you'd have maybe 20 or 30 men lift simultaneously, and they would carry the entire structure, walls, roof, floor, on their shoulders to the new location.
That is the ultimate definition of moving day. I complain about moving a couch down a flight of stairs, and these guys are moving the living room, the bedroom, and the kitchen all at once.
And it's physically demanding, of course, but it's also a social event. There's usually music, singing, and afterwards, The family being moved hosts this huge feast for everyone who helped.
So it turns a burden into a party.
It turns a burden into a celebration of community strength.
But obviously, in a modern city like Manila or Cebu, with concrete buildings and high-rises, they aren't lifting condos on their shoulders. So how does Bayanihan look today? Has that spirit died out?
Far from it. It has evolved, for sure, but the spirit is the same. It's about communal unity and cooperation without expecting anything in return.
So what are some modern examples?
Today, you see it in the digital space. Crowdfunding for medical bills is a huge example. A family can't afford surgery, the call goes out, and the community responds.
Okay, that makes sense.
But you see it most viscerally in disaster response. The Philippines sits on the Ring of Fire and the typhoon belt. It gets hammered by nature constantly.
Right. It seems like there's a new typhoon every other month.
When a typhoon hits or a flood rises, you don't see people waiting around for the federal government to show up with trucks. The community is there instantly. Neighbors are in boats rescuing other neighbors. People are sharing their limited food supplies. It's that instinct to shoulder the burden together, just like they used to shoulder the bamboo poles.
So it's a survival mechanism, really. It's baked into the culture because it has to be.
It has to be. Which leads us to another concept that I found really interesting, but also a little complicated. Utang na loob.
Ah, yes. Utang na loob. This is one of those concepts that sociologists love to debate, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's very nuanced.
Translating this is tricky. The standard translation is debt of gratitude, but that feels a little transactional. Like, I bought you lunch, now you owe me $5.
It is so much deeper than a financial transaction.
Mm.
Loob refers to your inner self, your core, your spirit. So utang na loob is a debt of the soul.
A debt of the soul. Wow.
It is a fundamental value that underscores a deep, almost unbreakable sense of loyalty. If someone helps you, really helps you, saves your life, gets you a job, educates you, you incur a debt that can never truly be fully repaid.
So it binds you to them permanently. It's not something you can just pay back and be done with.
Precisely. It binds society together across generations. Think about the parent-child relationship. In many Western cultures, the idea is you raise your kids, they leave the nest at 18, and they are independent.
Right. You're on your own.
In the Philippines, children often care for their aging parents, not just out of love, but out of utang na loob. The thinking is, you gave me life, you raised me, so my life is essentially yours to support when you are old. It's a lifelong commitment.
But, as you hinted, there is a nuance here. It sounds beautiful, but I can see how it could be heavy, very heavy.
It can be incredibly heavy. It
Yeah.
creates this intricate web of obligation.
Mhm.
And if you ignore it, you aren't just seen as rude, you are seen as walang utang na loob.
Which means
Someone with no debt of gratitude. And that's not just an insult, it's a character assassination. It implies you have no soul, no honor, that you are less than human.
so it can be a tool for manipulation, a way to keep people in line.
Potentially. It can create a patronage system in politics, for example. A politician might say, I paved your road, now you and your family owe me your vote forever. It's the glue of the social fabric, but sometimes glue can feel sticky and restrictive.
It keeps you safe, but it also keeps you in place.
Exactly. And to keep that glue from cracking, to keep everything running smoothly in this web of obligation, there is pakikisama.
Right. Smooth interpersonal relationships. This is the art of getting along, essentially.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
In Filipino culture, prioritizing harmony and avoiding conflict is paramount. It's deeply ingrained.
So it's the opposite of the squeaky wheel gets the grease mentality we have in some Western cultures.
Completely the opposite. If you are the squeaky wheel in the Philippines, you aren't getting grease, you're getting side-eyed. You're seen as disruptive.
So you don't want to stand out or cause trouble.
No. Pakikisama means you might agree to something you don't fully want to do just to maintain the group cohesion. You go along with the barkada, your group of friends. It's about not rocking the boat, ever.
So you have these core values, bayanihan, this communal strength, utang na loob, this deep-seated loyalty, and pakikisama, the need for harmony. They create a very tight-knit, harmonious, supportive group.
A very strong social fabric.
And this expresses itself most loudly in their festivals. We looked at a few of these in the research stack, and the visuals are just insane. It's sensory overload.
They are an explosion of identity. You have to understand, the Philippines is this incredible mix of indigenous Austronesian roots, then 300 years of Spanish Catholicism, and then modern American influence. The festivals are where all of that crashes together in the most beautiful, chaotic way.
Take Sinulog in Cebu, for instance. This is one of the biggest ones. It honors the Santo Niño, the Holy Child Jesus. So you'd expect a quiet church service, maybe some hymns.
Not even close. Sinulog is a rhythmic, drum-heavy street dance that goes on for hours. The streets are packed with millions of people. The drums have this specific beat. It's a native tribal beat that just thumps in your chest. You feel it in your bones.
And it has those roots in indigenous rituals, right? It's not originally a Catholic thing.
Correct. It's a perfect example of syncretism. It originates from pre-colonial Cebuano rituals that were used to worship animist spirits. When the Spanish arrived and introduced the Santo Niño statue, the locals didn't stop dancing.
They just changed who they were dancing for?
They just changed who they were dancing for. They kept the rhythm, they kept the movement, but they swapped the idol. It's this incredible act of cultural adaptation.
That's fascinating. It's like cultural camouflage almost. A way to preserve tradition under a new system.
Or cultural fusion. Then you have the Ati-Atihan in Aklan, which is often called the mother of all Philippine festivals. This one is even more visually striking.
This is the one where the participants paint their faces black with soot. Now, in a Western context, that raises all sorts of red flags, but the context here is completely different.
Completely different context. The Ati-Atihan celebrates the encounter between the indigenous Ati people, who are dark-skinned Negritos, and the Malay settlers who arrived later. The story goes that the Malay settlers, in a gesture of friendship and celebration, painted their faces with soot to look like the Ati.
So it's a symbol of unity, not mimicry, but solidarity.
Exactly. It symbolizes the unity and the blending of the two cultures. It's a celebration of peaceful coexistence, and the energy is frenetic. The chant is halabida, which literally means hit them or go for it.
Wow.
And that's mixed with Viva Santo Niño. So you have this aggressive tribal war cry mashed up with a Catholic cheer. It's loud, it's sweaty, and it's incredibly joyful.
It sounds incredibly intense. And then, for a completely different vibe, there's Pahiyas in Lukban. This one felt less about dancing and more about, well, decorating. It's almost architectural.
It is a harvest festival. They honor San Isidro Labrador, the patron saint of farmers. But instead of bringing the harvest to the church, they bring the harvest to the facade of their homes.
They decorate the houses themselves.
The entire house. They cover them with vegetables, fruits, and most importantly, with kaiping.
Kaiping. These are the rice wafers. They look like colorful leaves.
Yes, they're leaf-shaped, multicolored rice wafers. They're made from rice paste and dyed with food coloring. They arrange them in these elaborate chandeliers or giant flowers on the front of the house. It looks like the house is blooming. It's edible art.
Can you actually eat them?
You can. After the festival, they can be grilled or fried and eaten like chips. It shows that agricultural abundance isn't just to be consumed. It's to be shown off and shared with the whole community. It's a visual representation of that Bayanihan spirit. Look at what the land gave us. Let's share it visually and literally.
Speaking of eating, we can't talk about the light side of the Philippines without talking about the food and, more importantly, how it's eaten. The sources mention kamayan.
This is popularly known as the boodle fight style.
I love that term, boodle fight. It
Yeah.
sounds aggressive.
It comes from military slang, actually, from
Yeah.
the Philippine Military Academy.
Yeah.
It referred to the mess hall food. But the concept is pure communal bonding.
So how does it work?
You cover a long table with banana leaves, no tablecloths. You pile steaming rice in the middle, a mountain of rice, and then you top it with grilled pork belly, tilapia, mussels, vegetables, mangoes, salted eggs. Everything just gets dumped on top.
And the key rule.
No plates, no spoons, no
Yeah.
forks.
You eat with your hands.
You eat with your hands. The practice is called kamayan, using your hands. You stand shoulder to shoulder with everyone else at the table, friend or stranger.
It creates a tremendous sense of equality, doesn't it? It's a great leveler.
It breaks down every single barrier. You cannot be formal, you cannot be pretentious, and you cannot maintain a hierarchy when you have rice on your fingers and you are grabbing for the same piece of grilled pork as the person next to you. It fosters a very literal, tactile connection.
And that hospitality is aggressive in a good way. If you walk into a Filipino home, you are getting fed. It's not a question.
You are. It is non-negotiable. You'll be offered adobo or bibingka rice cake. If you refuse, the host will look visibly pained.
Is it an insult to say no?
It's a deep insult to refuse. This hospitality is the physical manifestation of Bayanihan and Pakikisama. Feeding you is how they include you in the circle, in the family.
So, okay. We have this picture of a society that is incredibly warm, interconnected, and deeply respectful. But now I want to pivot. Because this respect, this is where it gets interesting, it creates a very specific hierarchy. You have the mano, right?
The gesture of taking an elder's hand and pressing it to your forehead to ask for a blessing. a sign of profound respect.
And the language using po and oppo to say yes or to be polite. Thank you, po. Excuse me, po. It's built into the grammar. But here's where it gets really interesting to me. That etiquette, that desperate need to be polite and respectful, it doesn't stop with humans.
No, it absolutely does not. And this is the bridge. This is part 2 of our journey. The threshold. We're stepping from the physical world into the spiritual one.
There is a phrase that everyone uses. If you are walking through a tall, grassy field or passing a big termite mound in the garden, and the sources are very specific about this, if you have to pee behind a tree in the woods because you can't find a bathroom, you say, tabi tabi po.
The translation is roughly, excuse me, or may I pass, or please move aside.
But you aren't talking to people. You're talking to dirt mounds and trees. Who are you asking to move aside?
No, you're not talking to the tree. You are acknowledging the unseen. You are talking to the duende, the elves or goblins, or the encanto, the enchanted nature spirits that might be living in that anthill or sitting in that tree.
And why do you do this? Is it just a cute tradition?
It's fear, but it's also pragmatism. The belief is that if you don't say tabi tabi po, you might accidentally step on, kick, or urinate on one of these invisible beings, and they are not forgiving.
So they get angry?
They get very angry, and they will punish you. Usually with an unexplained ailment, a sudden high fever that won't break, a swollen joint, a mysterious skin rash that dermatologists can't explain.
So you go to the doctor, they run tests, they say, I don't know what's wrong with you, and then your grandma says, you didn't say tabi tabi po, did you?
Exactly. And then you have to go to an albulario, a traditional folk healer, to make an offering and apologize to the spirit you offended.
What I find fascinating here is that the expert analysis in our source points out that this isn't just about being scared of ghosts. It's about politeness.
Exactly. It frames the supernatural world as just another neighbor you have to live with. You wouldn't walk into your neighbor's yard and kick their dog without saying, excuse me. So you don't walk into a spirit's territory without asking permission.
So it shows that in the Filipino worldview, the physical and spiritual realms are not separate. They're completely interconnected.
They overlap. They share the same space. You treat the spirits with the same pakikisama you treat your grandmother.
It's extending the social contract to the paranormal. I won't bother you if you don't bother me.
Precisely. But not all spirits are just grumpy neighbors you need to say excuse me to. Some of them are nightmares.
And this is where we descend into the dark. We are leaving the sunlight of the festivals and the polite, of the garden. We are going into the deep, dark folklore.
And the Philippines has a roster of monsters that rivals any horror franchise in the world. They are genuinely terrifying.
It really does. The sources we have paint a picture of folklore that is visceral, it's gory, it's not Casper the Friendly Ghost. And the queen of them all, the absolute icon of Filipino horror, has to be the Manananggal.
The Manananggal. Even the name is intimidating. It comes from the Tagalog word tanggal, which means to remove or to separate.
And that is exactly what she does. Walk us through the visual here because it is profoundly disturbing.
Visually, this is one of the most terrifying monsters in global folklore, hands down. By day, she appears as a beautiful, perhaps older woman. She could be your neighbor, the nice lady who sells you vegetables.
Completely normal.
But at night, she goes to a secluded spot, maybe a banana grove. She applies a special oil to her body, chance a spill, and then she physically separates her upper torso from her lower body.
Just rips in half at the waist.
Her spine snaps, the flesh separates. She sprouts these giant, bat-like, leathery wings from her back, and she flies off into the night, leaving her legs and hips just standing there in the grass.
That image of the legs just standing there, it's so surreal and creepy. But her mission is even worse. Her diet is specific.
Horrifyingly specific. She lands silently on the roofs of houses, usually thatched roofs or tin roofs with holes. She is hunting for a pregnant woman.
And what does she do?
She has this long thread-like proboscis tongue. It's like a hollow tube. She lowers it through the cracks in the roof, down towards the sleeping woman, inserts it into the womb.
Oh, no.
And sucks out the heart of the fetus.
That is incredibly dark. It's pure body horror, and it taps into such a primal fear.
It is. But if you analyze it, it's tied deeply to real-world fears. In rural areas, historically, infant mortality and miscarriage were common and unexplained. The Manananggal gives a face to that tragedy. It explains the unexplainable loss of a child. It wasn't a medical issue, it was the monster.
It personifies a tragedy, but like all good monsters, she has a weakness. There's a game mechanic almost. If you find the legs, you win.
The lower torso is her anchor, her weak point. It's completely defenseless while she is out flying. If you stumble upon it, you can defeat her.
Oh.
You sprinkle salt, ash, or crushed garlic on the exposed flesh where the split happened.
And what does that do? Does it burn her? Is it like a vampire thing?
It prevents the two halves from rejoining. The salt and garlic essentially sear the flesh so it can't fuse back together. She can't rejoin her lower half before sunrise. The first rays of sunlight will destroy the flying upper torso. She just disintegrates.
It's interesting how salt and garlic preservatives, purifying agents, things you find in every kitchen are the weapons here. It's domestic magic.
It connects back to that idea of cleansing and protection. You are using the tools of the home to protect the home from this monstrous invasion.
Now, not all monsters are physically aggressive like that. Some are just omens. There's the Kumakatak.
The door knockers,
This one gave me chills because it's so subtle. It's 3 figures.
always 3. A young female, a middle-aged man, and an elderly man. They wear robes, sometimes hoods that obscure their faces. They look like a twisted, spectral version of a family.
And they just knock on your door in the middle of the night. That's it.
And that's the horror. You don't have to let them in. They don't attack you. They don't try to break down the door. Just the visit itself is the signal. If they knock, someone in that house, usually the eldest, or someone who is already sick, is going to die.
So they're a delivery service for death.
That's a perfect description. They're an omen made flesh.
There's a historical note in the source about the Kumakatak that I found really poignant. It said, sightings of them dropped drastically after World War II.
Yes. And the explanation is heartbreakingly logical. During the Battle of Manila in 1945, the city was flattened. It was the second most destroyed Allied city after Warsaw. So many buildings were destroyed. So many neighborhoods were wiped off the map.
So the folklore changed.
The folklore evolved. People started saying the Kumakatak disappeared because there were simply fewer doors to knock on.
That is a chilling mix of myth and historical trauma. It's like the real, tangible horror of the war displaced the supernatural horror.
It shows how folklore adapts to the reality of the people. When real death is everywhere on your streets, you don't need a hooded figure to announce its arrival.
Speaking of reality and cars, we have to talk about the White Lady of Ballet Drive. This is the classic urban legend in the Philippines. If you are in Manila, you know this story.
It is the most famous ghost story in Metro Manila, without a doubt, and Ballet Drive is a real street in Quezon City.
What's so special about it?
It used to be lined with massive balete trees. Those are strangler figs, which in Filipino folklore are always associated with spirits. It was dark, lonely, and flanked by the high walls of rich estates. It's the perfect setting for a ghost story.
And the story is almost always the same. A taxi driver or a lone motorist late at night sees a woman in white hailing a ride.
And the source gives us a specific account from a police captain in the 1950s. This adds a layer of authority to it, which makes it even creepier.
Yeah.
He claimed he picked up a hitchhiker dressed in white. She was beautiful, sad, very quiet.
So he lets her in the car.
She got in the back seat. He drove her to her destination, checking the rearview mirror every so often.
And then?
When he arrived and turned around to tell her the fare, empty seat,
Gone.
gone. And the doors were still locked. He never heard them open or close.
The classic vanishing hitchhiker.
Precisely. The backstory varies. Sometimes she was a victim of a hit and run on that road, sometimes a victim of a violent crime. But she's always there, seeking justice, or just eternally lost. It's a cautionary tale about driving at night, but it's also about the lingering presence of tragedy in a modern, bustling city.
Before we move to the mountain, there is one more figure that stood out to me from the sources. The headless priest.
Ah, yes, another ghost born from historical trauma. This one is often associated with old Spanish-era buildings, like schools, cemeteries, or specifically the town of Dueñas.
The visual is stark. A priest in a black vestment, hands in chains, bleeding, and obviously no head.
Or sometimes he's carrying it like a grotesque lantern.
There's a specific story in the source about a girl in an English garden who felt like she was being choked by an invisible force right before seeing this apparition.
This figure reflects a lingering trauma from the Spanish colonial era. For over 300 years, the friars held immense power. But there are also Filipino priests who were persecuted, or Spanish priests who were beheaded by revolutionaries during the fight for independence.
So it's history refusing to die. It's a ghost of colonialism.
Exactly. A priest is a figure of authority and religion. To see one beheaded speaks to the violent upheaval of the revolution. It's the violent history sitting just beneath the surface of the culture, literally haunting the present.
And that idea of history, trauma, and nature all converging brings us to the centerpiece of our deep dive. We are leaving the city now. We are heading to the province, to the boundary of Laguna and Quezon. We are going to Mount Cristobal.
The Devil's Mountain.
To understand Cristobal, you have to understand its neighbor, right? You can't just look at the dark mountain in isolation. They're a pair.
You do. You cannot have the shadow without the light. This is the concept of duality again, but on a massive geographical scale. Right next to Mount Cristobal is Mount Banahaw.
And Banahaw is the opposite.
It's the polar opposite. Banahaw is an active volcano complex and is known as the Holy Mountain.
It's a pilgrimage site.
A huge pilgrimage site. Especially during Holy Week, you have religious sects and cults that live on its slopes. People go there to recharge their spiritual energy, to pray in what they call holy caves, to bathe in holy water from its waterfalls. It is considered a place of immense positive energy.
So it's the yang.
Exactly. And the local belief, which experts trace back to Taoist influences brought by Chinese traders centuries ago, is that nature requires balance. If Banahaw is the positive terminal of the battery, Cristobal has to be the negative.
So Cristobal absorbs all the negative energy that Banahaw rejects.
That's the theory. It is the psychic dumping ground for the region's darkness. It is the yin to Banahaw's yang.
So you have the Holy Mountain and the Devil's Mountain sitting right next to each other. And while people flock to Banahaw for blessings, they whisper about Cristobal, what supposedly lives there.
Well, according to the legends, the Tumao,
The Filipino Bigfoot.
in a way. But Bigfoot implies a shy biological ape-man. The Tumao is described as a towering horned humanoid with glowing red eyes and thick black hair.
Horned. That sounds more demonic than cryptid.
That's the distinction. Westerners might hear the stories and say cryptid, but locals view it as a maligno, a demon, or potentially a shape-shifting tikbalang. That's a horse demon from folklore that loves to lead travelers astray in the forest.
And there are accounts from hikers.
Oh, yeah. Hikers report heavy footsteps circling their tents at night, their belongings going missing, and seeing these luminous green or red circles floating in the dark forest.
There's also the legend of the lost couple. This one feels like a warning to every hiker out there. A ghost story for the trail.
It is. It's the story of a couple who went for a midnight hike, which is already a bad idea on the Devil's Mountain, and they took a wrong turn at a fork in the trail. They vanished?
Never found.
Never found. But the legend says they are still there. They appear to other hikers, acting like helpful guides. They'll say, "Follow us, we know the way out." But they lead you off the trail, deeper and deeper into the jungle.
They want company in their fate.
They are trapped in a time loop, an eternal climb, and they want to drag others into it with them.
It's interesting because the sources say there is no official police record of this specific disappearance, but the story persists in the mountaineering community.
It persists because it serves a function. It's a powerful warning against hubris. Do not underestimate the mountain. Do not go where you don't know the way. Hire a guide.
But the evil of Mount Cristobal isn't just about ghosts or monsters. It's historical. And this is where the expert view really changes the perspective. The mountain might be haunted by something much realer than ghosts.
Yes. If we look at history, the darkness of Cristobal might be the memory of colonial violence. We have to talk about the Colorms.
The Colorms, who are they?
In 1841, a man named Hermano Pule, his real name was Apolinario de la Cruz, started a religious brotherhood called the Confraria de San Jose. They were native Filipinos who were refused entry into the Catholic clergy because of their race.
So they were trying to practice their faith, but on their own terms.
Yes, seeking religious equality and a form of Catholicism that was more in tune with their own identity. And they gathered at the foot of these mountains, Banahaw and Cristobal. They attracted thousands of followers.
And the Spanish authorities did not like that.
Not at all. They viewed it as a rebellion and heresy.
Yeah.
A direct challenge to their authority. So the Spanish forces attacked, they slaughtered them. It was a massacre at the foot of the mountain. Hermano Pule was captured, executed, and his body was quartered and displayed as a warning.
My God.
The survivors fled up into the mountains. They became remontados, which literally means those who went back to the mountains.
So the mountain became a sanctuary for rebels?
Rebels, heretics, outcasts. The Spanish authorities labeled them as bandits or devils. They demonized the people, and by extension, they demonized the place where they hid. So the evil reputation of the mountain was, in part, a colonial propaganda tool to keep people away from the resistance.
That is a massive revelation. The devil might just be the spirit of resistance against colonial power.
Precisely. The negative energy might be the accumulated trauma of that massacre and the centuries of defiance from the people who refused to surrender.
That puts a whole new spin on it. But let's be honest, even without the ghosts and the history, the mountain itself is just physically dangerous. It doesn't need ghosts to kill you.
It absolutely does not. It is a rugged, unforgiving jungle.
We have a source here from Gideon Lasco, a well-known mountaineer who wrote a first-hand account called Survival in Cristobal. And this isn't a ghost story, it's a survival horror story.
It's a very grounding account. It happened in 2004. Lasco and his friends decided to hike Cristobal without a guide. They were young, maybe a bit overconfident.
Hubris again. They thought they could conquer the Devil's Mountain on their own.
Exactly. They start the hike, and everything seems fine at first. But as they get higher, the trail becomes indistinct. They take a turn, and suddenly the trail it disappears. It vanishes.
Disorientation sets in.
Complete disorientation. And the environment itself turns on them. Lasco describes the vegetation in detail, specifically the rattan palms.
If you've never encountered wild rattan, it's nasty stuff.
It is a vine covered in these curved, hook-like thorns. It's designed to grab and tear. He describes it clinging to his clothes, ripping his skin. He even mentions a thorn hooking his ear, threatening to peel it off if he moved the wrong way.
It sounds like the mountain is physically fighting back, and then, inevitably, it rains.
It pours. The trail becomes slippery black soil. And here is the detail that made me cringe. Lasco was hiking in slippers.
Flip-flops. On a mountain hike.
Trekking sandals, probably, but they failed him. The straps broke in the thick mud, so he ends up hiking barefoot.
Barefoot. On a mountain full of thorny rattan and who knows what else.
They are forced to crawl on their hands and knees because the slope is so steep and slippery it gets dark. They are stuck at 1,275 meters above sea level. They are nowhere near the summit, nowhere near the base. They're in the void.
And they can't set up camp.
There's no flat ground. They have to sleep on a steep slope on flattened kudgan grass.
He uses a phrase that stuck with me. Grass for my pillow.
It's poetic, but terrifying. It captures the sheer vulnerability. They are completely at the mercy of the elements. They are freezing, wet, and exposed.
And this is where the psychology kicks in. The source talks about the sound of fear.
Yes. On a mountain like Cristobal, the fear isn't just visual. It's auditory. Lasco talks about the oppressive silence, broken only by the wind. He keeps thinking he hears the heavy footsteps that other campers report, the sound of the tumal.
But then he hears something real, an airplane.
That moment is so powerful in his account. He hears a jet flying high overhead.
That must be such a surreal, heartbreaking contrast. You are freezing, lost, maybe dying in the jungle, bleeding from thorns, and a few thousand feet above you, people are drinking coffee and watching an in-flight movie.
It emphasizes the isolation. You are so close to civilization. Cristobal is just a few hours from Manila, yet you are in a completely different hostile world. He talks about the fear of death versus his trust in God. It became a spiritual ordeal. The mountains stripped away their ego completely.
They did make it out, eventually.
They did. After a freezing, sleepless night, they made a desperate descent into a valley, a banyan, and found a faint trail by what Lasco calls God's grace. It took them 2 days to get out of what should have been a simple day hike.
And the lesson he took away wasn't, I saw a ghost. It wasn't about the white lady or the tamao.
No. His lesson was brutally simple. Never underestimate a mountain.
Which brings us full circle to Tabi Tabi Po.
Right. It's the exact same principle.
Whether you are saying, excuse me, to a spirit in an anthill because you don't want to get sick, or you are hiring a guide because you respect the dangerous terrain of a mountain.
The core lesson is the same. You are not the master of this domain. You are a guest. And if you act like an intruder, if you act with hubris, the domain, whether it's spiritual or physical, will chew you up and spit you out.
That is the thread that connects the sunny festivals to the dark mountain. It's all about respect.
Exactly. The Filipino culture of hospitality, of bayanihan, is about respecting the people around you. It's about recognizing that we survive together. The folklore, the manananggal, the fear of Mount Cristobal, that is about respecting the world around you, even the parts you don't understand or can't control.
The light balances the dark.
And the dark defines the light. You hold your community tight. You move the house together because you know the night is scary. You celebrate the harvest with bright colors because you know the jungle is wild and can take it all away in a single storm.
So what does this all mean for us? For the listener who might be planning a trip or just trying to understand this incredibly complex culture?
I think it leaves us with a provocative thought about that Devil's Mountain. We call it the Devil's Mountain because it scares us, because people get lost, because of the history of violence. But is it evil?
Or is it just wild? Is it just nature being nature?
Perhaps it's just the untamed part of nature and history that refuses to be conquered. The holy mountain, Banahaw, represents order, religion, civilization, and light. Cristobal represents the chaos, the resistance, the wilderness, and the shadow. And in the Philippines, as in life, you simply cannot have one without the other.
That is a powerful place to leave it. Whether you are lifting a house with your neighbors in the sunlight or holding your breath as you drive down a dark, tree-lined street hoping not to see a woman in white, it's all part of the same story.
It is. It's a story of survival, respect, and the delicate balance between the known and the unknown.
Well, that wraps up our journey through the light and shadow of the Philippines. Until the next deep dive, keep your eyes open, respect the unknown, and maybe, just maybe, don't look back if you're driving down Belait Drive.
And definitely hire a guide from Cristobal.
Definitely hire a guide. Thanks for listening.